In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the best counters to the top 10 brawlers within the game right now. So a lot of these brawlers, there's not a lot of counters out there, but at least this will give you a better chance to fight off against them. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So firstly, we're going to be looking into how to counter Gray. Pretty new brawler within the game right now. So obviously not everyone knows how to counter Gray. So the big one for me, I haven't played a ton of Gray, but these are just the ones that really point out in my mind to who counts him the most. So the first one is actually going to be Penny. So Penny's a really good one against Gray. You know, she's got similar range, but the best thing about her, and you'll see this common theme with countering Gray, is just brawlers that have like gadgets or just ways to actually counter out his shots. Like, it's a sharpshooter, normally spawners or anything like that will really counter those sharpshooters. So first one, yeah, Penny's going to be really good because you can't really teleport onto a Penny because of that gadget, and if you do, you're just going to get completely deleted. So that's one thing straight away with how to counter Gray. The next one is going to be B. So B also outranges Gray, but not only that, if you teleport onto B as well, you know, she's going to destroy you. And also you've got the honey pot to actually tank one of her shots, and then, you know, by the time he's actually teleported on you, you're going to be like, even if you don't have your 3k available, you'd be able to cycle 2 shots, so that's like 4k damage at least onto the Gray, pretty much killing them every single time. So B is a fantastic counter. And then a couple of others, you know, Spike, pretty decent at tanking the shots with his gadget. And then Ash is a really good counter to Gray. He really struggles against Ash's rats. So next up, we're moving on to how to counter Penny. So Penny, she's a super versatile brawler within the game. You hear me say that time and time again, but she's pretty much good against everything. Like, I don't think there's a single brawler that fully hard counters it, except for probably Barley. Barley hard counters her by far the most. It only takes him a couple of ammo to destroy the turret, but also easily able to stay away from her and stay behind walls. But as you guys know, you can still take down the throwers with Penny overall. Barley's probably your best bet. You see sometimes a Barley brought out in pit stop to counter out a Penny. Also a decent counter sometimes to Penny, the likes of Griff. Griff can open up the walls against Penny, maybe not in a 1v1, but still, like, Griff can be okay against Penny as well because of the healing style power. Sometimes it takes a couple of extra shots to kill a Griff because of that annoying style power. And then the last one is Janet. So Janet is a good one for me because, of course, her shot just pierces against the gadget. So now moving on to Otis. So Otis is another brawler which is super versatile like Penny, and really you can get around pretty much every single matchup. But anyways, these are going to be the best counters that you could possibly get. So the first one's going to be Penny, or basically, again, any brawler that has like a spawner or gadget that can really help tank against his mute. So best way to counter him is by getting him to waste his mute. So that's why Penny is really good. Of course, you can keep your range against the Otis and fare decently well in a 1v1, but not only that, if he wants to ever mute you, you can pop your gadget, and yeah, Otis just can't really go right into your face and take you down like he will with most other tanks and whatever else. The next one is going to be B. So time and time again, B is just a great counter to a lot of these brawlers, but the main reason why is because of the range element. You're able just to keep your range so easily against an Otis and take him down. That's just a common theme in Brawl Stars, but also just one matchup I find pretty easy when I play B against Otis. And then the last one is Jean. So again, Jean is just a good brawler overall against a lot of different brawlers, but of course Otis doesn't have any way to defend himself against Jean, so a lot of time it's just an easy pull onto the Otis. So next up, we have brawlers that you look to counter Grom with. So Grom, of course, for me is one of the most annoying brawlers to face off against, especially because he does so much damage and it's really hard to dodge him. So the obvious one that everyone knows is aggression. Any bit of aggression in the form of literally any brawler, really, just make him really uncomfortable, get close and personal, and sometimes it can be pretty hard to hit your shots onto them. But in terms of brawlers then, so the first one definitely is going to be Max. So although, you know, Max isn't just going to completely destroy Grom all the time, it's just her pressure that really folds a Grom. So not only can she just deal pretty well in 1v1s, but the supers being able to help you and your team push a Grom into a really backwards position. Now, that's what Grom players hate, so Max is really good at doing that. Next one is Buzz. So Buzz, of course, is going to counter every single thrower, but the main reason he's so strong is because of his gadget. The gadget, you don't even need the stun with Grom again, the stun with Buzz against Grom. You can just go extremely aggressive, and Groms can't do anything. And then the last one, again, Carl. So those gadgets with Buzz and Carl are just so essential to get so much pressure, and it's just something he can't deal with. So next up, we have Carl. So Carl is one of the easier brawlers to counter within the meta, and that's why Carl metas are always somewhat not toxic. But the first one, of course, is going to be Surge. Everyone knows that Surge just destroys Carl in a 1v1 most of the time, especially if you have like a last pick and you see a Carl on your enemy team. You know you're at least winning one of those matchups. So Surge, you know, he interrupts Carl's super as well with Surge's super. And just overall, like, it's such a hard matchup, but still a good Carl can actually win that. That's the one thing about Carl as well, is that, you know, really good Carl can win every single matchup just because of how strong a brawler he is. So the next one is Buzz again. So just another brawler that stops Carl's super. So just like Surge, any brawler that interrupts his super is going to be able to take him down pretty easily, because of course Carl doesn't really deal the most damage up close. So Buzz is going to be able to leap onto him. Even if he doesn't have his stun, he should just be able to absolutely shred a Carl. And then the last one is Daryl. So again, Daryl interrupting the super with Carl and also just rolling on top of Carl. Carl just has no answers to it. So the next brawler we're going to be looking at countering is B. So B is just an insane brawler everywhere right now. You can always get away with playing a B. And to be honest, there isn't really too much to really counter it with. But, you know, there's a few brawlers which have always been the go-to for me. The first one being Sprout. The thing about Sprout is he's incredibly niche. You know, he's only really usable in a knockout and bounties. So, I mean, you can definitely get away with playing a Sprout in those game modes. But, of course, it's self-explanatory. He free shots B most of the time. But you can easily hit a B from across the map with a Sprout. The next one will also Grom as well, by the way. But next one is a little bit of an underrated one. So I've realized myself, I don't know about you guys, I know with Bo, you end up opening up the map and making it better for the B. But I think in a 1v1, Bo, a lot of the times, I've seen it in competitive as well, Bo has the better of the matchup. I don't know what it is. I think they're kind of similar ranges. But a lot of the times you can be pretty aggressive on a B. And if you hit a few shots in a row with a Bo against B, you should be able to take it down pretty easily. So that's just my experience. When I play Bo against B, I win it most of the time. Maybe it's different for you guys as well. And the last one is Byron. So again, like, Byron's only good against B in the open. Like, we're talking shooting star because of the projectile speed and whatever else, but still I feel like B can win pretty much every matchup in the game. So next up we have Gus. So Gus is always easily counterable again by high HP brawlers. So any tanks should be able to have a decent matchup against Gus. Of course, tanky options aren't always the best in some bounty and knockout maps, which Gus completely thrives on. But if we're talking about Brawl Ball, I feel like Gus just gets completely overwhelmed by those high HP brawlers. Also, the not tanky brawlers, the spawners as well. You know, brawlers like Nita, like in the gameplay, it's pretty hard for Gus to deal with. He doesn't have the fastest reload speed or the DPS to really burst that bear down pretty quickly. But the best ones to counter Gus with then. So for me, Ash and Sam are really good at countering Gus because they've just got that run and gun energy, just being able to just sprint at them 24/7, especially with Sam. Sam can easily run down a Gus for the most part. Another one, Buzz and Cole. So Buzz and Cole, kind of the same. Both got really good gadgets just to leap onto those type of brawlers. But also Gus can somewhat counter them sometimes with his gadget. But overall, I think aggro is definitely the way to counter Gus. So now moving on to Janet then. So Janet, again, another brawler which is pretty much good into everything. For me, I wouldn't be able to pinpoint completely a hard counter to Janet because overall you can make do with the matchups because of like her gadget herself. She's got two gadgets to be able to like maneuver around other matchups like throws, for example. Backstage pass gadget can really help you go against those throwers, but also her super, right? So for example, if an aggro brawler goes up against her, she can use a super to get away. But anyways, I still think aggro is the name of the game. Again, you see it, the same kind of theme against these meta brawlers, and that's why tanks are an incredibly strong last pick a lot of times in Power League. That's why I always stress it. But yeah, aggro is the name of the game because Janet doesn't have the most burst, well, kind of the most the quickest damage, right? A lot of times in ladder, I will really struggle against multiple tanks, or just anyone that is really up close and personal. So again, those brawlers that have supers or gadgets that can get close and up on top of us. So like Buzz, for example, also like Daryl, pretty hard for Janet to really deal with. Sam as well. So the same type of brawlers again. Bonnie is also one that I'd like to mention, just because Bonnie, when she does jump on top of her, Janet can't really respond to it most of the time. So I think a lot of times it's actually a decent matchup for a Bonnie. And then the last one as well, Cole. So the same type of brawlers again, but they're just so good because there's not many ways that Janet can really respond to those tanks. So now moving on to the best tank in the game, Ash. So a good Ash player, I've said it lots of times, but a good Ash player can really counter pretty much any brawler in the game, even his counters, because of his rats. That is the main reason why he's just incredibly strong. But the best counters to me, the best one is going to be Frank. I see this often a lot in NA monthly finals when someone goes on Ash. If you've got the last pick, you know, Frank is often a good option. Of course, you got to play a really good Frank because of the Ash rage. Sometimes when Ash is raged up, it's pretty hard to hit with a Frank super, but overall Frank has a really good matchup against him. So probably the best counter. The next one for me has to be Primo. Primo is just really good against other tanks, and you know, Ash really needs well, a big damage dealer like Primo to, you know, lose that 1v1, because overall, you know, normally you defeat Ashes by pinching him out by multiple people. Normally in a 1v1, Ash can literally win every single matchup. But then the last one is Surge. But of course, Ash can bypass that matchup because of his rats. If he gets his rats, then it's pretty hard for Surge to deal with. Okay, and finally, we have Max and her counters. So the first one, pretty obvious. We've said it for years now. Crow is probably the best counter to the Max just because of her slows. Being able to counter out her super is really important. Also, it's just really easy to hit your shots with Crow onto a Max. Of course, she's incredibly hard to hit a lot of the times, so a brawler like Crow is just really easy to consistently hit shots against her. Next one's going to be Poco. So Poco is a really good counter against Max. You see this a lot in competitive, especially in game modes like Hot Zone, where Poco is just really hard for Max to deal with. She doesn't have the craziest amount of DPS, so Poco, with all the healing and how easy it is for him to hit shots, it makes it pretty hard for Max to really take down a good Poco. And then the last few for me have to be Stu and Pam. So Stu in a 1v1 will completely wreck a Max. And then also Pam is just so much HP and she can have a really good matchup against the Max. Alright guys, it's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one. So for me, it's pretty hard to make these types of videos because I'd really like to show gameplay for every single scenario. But you know, with 64 brawlers in the game, it's really hard to just get those matchups. But overall, I feel like you guys should be able to at least learn a lot from the commentary that I did talk about. But a lot of these, you know, especially with top 10 brawlers, the reason why they're so good is because they have so few counters. But not only that, they're just able to win still when a brawler like counters them. So for example, like Ash, like a lot of brawlers will tend to counter, you know, like a Shelly, for example, a Claire, a B, they'll tend to counter him, and then he gets his rats, and then he's able just to counter his counters. So yeah, watch out for Ash in this meta. But that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.